Welcome to the Hyper Growth Zone podcast. This is your go-to resource for personal growth, mastering communication, and influencing and persuasion techniques that will help you unleash the full potential of yourself and others. Here is your host, Alex Morgan.
Welcome to another episode of the Hyper Growth Zone. I'm Alex Morgan. I'm a master trainer of hypnosis and NLP, and this is your go-to podcast for personal growth and development. And today we're going to go ahead and dive deep into the concept of self-doubt, and we'll go ahead and explore some different strategies on how you can actually recognize it and conquer it. So throughout your life, I'm sure you've experienced moments of self-doubt. I know I have. So what is self-doubt? Well, it's that nagging voice in your head that tells you you're not good enough, smart enough, talented enough, strong enough, you don't deserve it, you can't achieve what you want, all those things. So self-doubt can really hold you back and really hinder your ability to succeed. So if you listen to the episode, a couple episodes early on about the different growth zone, guess what? When you have self-doubt, you're not going to be in the growth zone. You're not going to be going into the hyper growth zone and taking risks because you'll have fear. However, fear not, because today we're going to talk about some different things that you can do to conquer self-doubt and achieve your goals. So really the first thing that you want to do, the first strategy, it's all about self-awareness. So it's important to recognize, to be consciously aware of when that self-doubt is actually creeping in. Because if you can identify the negative thoughts that are coming along with it, then guess what? You can shift your focus. You can be more empowering. You can really take your personal power back because, of course, you don't want to give that to someone else. So you can now have empowering thoughts. So if you're aware of your self-doubt, what's that also going to do? It's also not going to have you be thinking over and over and over and ruminating on those thoughts, which may even lead to stress on your body, stress on your mind. So physical and mental stress to lead to more problems like lack of sleep, or maybe your appetite isn't how you want it. You won't have energy. So you need to recognize self-doubt right away because you don't want it to lead into anything else. So if you're self-aware of it, you can either A, change your thinking naturally, which over time, when you become more consciously aware of things, it's going to become automatic for you so you can actually achieve your goals. So you can have positive self-talk, or what I would recommend is to ask yourself these 3 questions. So as soon as that self-doubt creeps in your mind, you say, when did I decide that? At some point, this doubt, which is essentially a limiting decision, you decided it at some point. Maybe not you, maybe you did it unconsciously, maybe you're around people, and they helped you develop this limiting belief. So you can ask yourself that question. And we're going to talk about these 3 questions in many episodes, probably because it's a great strategy. So the second question, what can I learn from this? This shifts your mind into thinking really into possibilities and think of good learnings, empowering learnings. And the third question is, what can I do instead? So now you have to focus on something that you can do instead. So once you're self-aware, ask yourself these 3 questions. Once you do this for a week or 2, guess what? It's going to become automatic. You won't ever have to do it again because you'll be so used to thinking of what you can do instead. And guess what? You'll actually start taking action on those things. And when you do this, this will definitely just push that self-doubt into the ground. It'll vanish. And instead, you'll experience things like boosting your confidence. And the more you take action, then the more you can really start to eliminate self-doubt. So that does lead right into the other strategy, and that is taking action. So self-doubt, if you have it all the time, and you keep ruminating and thinking those thoughts over and over, like I said, it could lead to stress. However, it could also lead to something called procrastination. So you'll actually start avoiding actually doing anything. Because people, when they doubt their abilities or they have a fear of failure, they actually put off taking action. However, the truth is, taking action is really one of the only ways to really build that confidence and feel really empowered, where you take your personal power back because you're doing it for you. And it's really good for, of course, overcoming self-doubt. So do anything. Take a small action. So let's say that I was just sitting around and, I was thinking something and it wasn't good. Well, I could take a small action and set up my computer and say, hey, let's go ahead and record an episode of a podcast. Do anything. Do something small. Open up your computer. Write something. Research something that you enjoy doing. And take just a small action. Because usually once we start doing something that we actually like doing, we totally forget about our problem, first off. And then we do it for much longer than we probably even anticipated at the start. So many times, I just actually released my third book, The Transformative Power of Suggestion. I always say, hey, just write a couple hundred words a day. However, once you start writing, guess what? A couple hundred words done. Next thing you know, you're at 500. You can write 1,000. And if you really feel like writing, you could write much more than that in one day. So once you start, you often keep going. So you can, even when you have self-doubt and taking action, just take small steps. Take one step at a time. However, we already know if you want to enter the hyper-growth zone, sometimes these actions, even if they don't seem big, they lead to huge results. So every action that you take, it could be taking that risk that's really going to propel you forward. And make sure to celebrate what you're achieving along the way when you take action. Because every step you take, it's going to bring you closer and closer to that ultimate goal. And if you take action, then procrastination and self-doubt, it will almost be impossible. And taking action is so important that when I work with private clients or companies, whatever it is, taking action is one of the 3 things that I always recommend that people do to create change. The first thing that we always have to do is we have to let go of negative emotions and limiting beliefs. And guess what? Doubt is a limiting belief. In those 3 questions I gave you earlier, that's a very easy way to get rid of limiting beliefs. And the second thing you always do to create change is you take action. So those 3 questions and taking action, it aligns perfectly. And the third thing you need to do with change is focus on what you want. So of course, that's going to be another strategy to conquer something like self-doubt. Because even if right now self-doubt is normal for you, it's really important to not let it hold you back from focusing on what you want. So once you're self-aware of it, guess what? You don't have to feel that discomfort anymore. You can maybe lean into it a bit. However, once you start taking action, that discomfort, it'll put you right into the action. You won't even think about the self-doubt anymore. Focusing on what you want, though, is going to be the next way that you can really conquer self-doubt. Because if you're focusing on what you want, how could you possibly really doubt yourself if you really, really want to do it? And if you do find yourself doubting yourself when you want to focus on what you want, then you ask yourself those 3 questions and you can take action. So these are how all 3 of these things can go together. And remember, the first thing to do is self-awareness. So if you recognize it, then that'll tell you focus on what you want, because you don't, again, want that self-doubt to lead to stress, physical or mental stress, or even things like anxiety. Oftentimes people have self-doubt because they're worried about something that's supposed to happen maybe in the future. And guess what? Most of the time it doesn't actually end up happening. And that's essentially what anxiety is. You're worried about a future event and you don't even know the outcome yet. So if you take action, a different action right then and there, and you're actually focusing on what you want, then really there should be no anxiety because you're in the moment, you're focused on what you want, and then you're going to be well on to achieving your goals and not having self-doubt and all those things. Now, some people, even after they do these three things, after they have the self-awareness, after they take action, and after they focus on what they want, and even if they're achieving goals more than they've ever achieved before, once they start to get to new levels, that self-doubt can creep in again when they start doing something they've never done before. And guess what? That's okay. That's happened to me. You do something, then you get to a new level, and something's right there in your face, and you really want to do it, but maybe you have a bit of fear, or you start doubting yourself just a bit. So what do you do again? Even though you're at the new level, you can take the same steps. You're self-aware of it, take action, and focus on what you want. So you can keep doing the same things over and over, and those three strategies together, they can keep conquering levels of new self-doubt. So anytime anything comes up in the future, you can use these three strategies. The thing is once you keep doing them and keep doing them, you really shouldn't have much self-doubt, really any at all, because your mind is going to be so used to taking action and focusing on what you want. So your mind won't even want to go there. It won't even want to search for self-doubt. And that's the wonderful thing about asking these three questions and doing these changes, is it creates change at the unconscious level, because that's where all change takes place. That's where you create habits, and that's also where all learning happens, is in the unconscious mind. So when you're consistently taking action, your mind is learning. When you're focusing on what you want, that's essentially you giving your unconscious mind suggestions. So your unconscious mind then is going to be so used to focusing on what it wants and seeing good things that it's going to start bringing those things into your life, and it won't even worry about self-doubt anymore. And the other amazing thing about the unconscious mind, and this is really, really cool, once you start creating something good in one aspect of your life, so let's say you have self-doubt and it has to do with something in business. Once you get over that self-doubt and start taking action and focusing on what you want in business, and you start to achieve good things, the unconscious mind starts to generalize. It thinks, I want more of good. Give me some of that good over there to the left. Give me some of it going right in front of me, behind me, to the right. And guess what? Once it's seeing good in business, it wants it everywhere. Your unconscious mind starts to generalize this good into relationships with your spouse, with your family, with your health, with your physical fitness, with your spirituality, whatever it is. It can do it in all aspects of life, because once it starts seeing good, it wants to hear that good and it wants to feel that good everywhere. So that self-doubt, it completely vanishes. It's gone because everything is going good. And again, you're going to keep going to new levels, because that's the whole point of listening to this podcast, is to keep growing and achieve that hyper growth and keep taking risks. So of course, when you keep taking risks, you may experience some self-doubt again down the road. However, your mind's going to be so used to that good, it's generalized that good, so it's going to want it more and more. So those are how those three tie in together, and that's some of the ways that your unconscious mind can also help you just eliminate the self-doubt, because it's going to want so much more. And the other way that you can really conquer self-doubt is you need to really understand how you're motivated. So people were often motivated either away from something or were motivated towards something. So for example, let's say someone wants to do really well in business. So they want to make a lot of money, a lot of profit, have a lot of cash flow. Some people are going to be moving away from something like poverty, while other people are going to be moving towards the money and abundance and all the good things. So if you understand how you're motivated, and you can have that self-awareness. So if you notice, I'm focusing actually not on what I want, I'm actually focusing on possibly losing money, then you might have self-doubt. However, if you change that and start thinking, wow, I can focus on what I want, I can actually focus on the success, the results, and have confidence and get the money, get the abundance. And this will get me the true freedom or whatever it is that you want. Whatever is valuable and motivating to you, then that's going to be totally different if you're motivated towards it. So you need to come up with some values, and the way you can do that to really eliminate self-doubt is ask yourself, when you want to achieve something, what's important to you about achieving that? And brainstorm some different words, maybe write some of them down. Just ask yourself that question. What's important to you about achieving whatever it is that you want to do, whatever you're going to take action on, what your ultimate goal is, and write down those words. And those words are going to motivate you towards that thing. So when you're motivated towards that, you actually aren't going to have much self-doubt. Now, if you still do have some self-doubt, even though you're motivated towards all these things, there's a really easy way to get rid of that. And this is something that I work privately with a lot of people doing, is we can just get rid of those doubts through some techniques and get rid of the negative emotions that are holding you back from what is actually motivating you. So if you want more information about that, go ahead and send me an email. It's also always going to be in the description of the show, alex@athensnlp.com. So of course, we can chat before and see exactly what you want to work on. That's only if you have some self-doubt still, even after you can really find out what motivates you. So that's another way. You can really find out what you value and what motivates you, and that should really propel you forward to not having much self-doubt at all. So if you use each of these, if you're self-aware, you take action, you focus on what you want, and really find out what motivates you and what really is valuable to you. Because the thing is, when we know what's valuable to us, we're going to put in time, money, energy into actually achieving those things. So if we're doing that, how could we possibly have much self-doubt at all? So it's really important to do these things so nothing at all can hold us back, because we want to ultimately get to that hyper growth zone where if we just take small risks or big risks, we can achieve more than we ever thought possible, or we can achieve more than we ever dreamed of. So really just push yourself, ask yourself those questions, take risks, and over time you conquer that self-doubt because you build confidence. You won't procrastinate at all because you're taking action, and you won't be thinking those bad thoughts because guess what? You're focused on what you want, and you'll be motivated towards what you want to achieve. So think of all the good things that you actually want to achieve and why that is important to you, and go out and get it. So those are the different strategies that you can do to really conquer self-doubt. So I'd love to hear your feedback on this. What one do you currently do? Or what do you currently do to get rid of self-doubt? And if you do have it, of course, again, reach out to me. So thanks so much for listening to this episode. I do really appreciate it. Go ahead and leave a 5-star review wherever you listen to this podcast. And like I said earlier, I did come out with my 3rd book recently. It's available on Amazon, on Kindle, and on paperback. It's called The Transformative Power of Suggestion. So it teaches you everything you need to know about suggesting things to the unconscious mind so you can communicate to yourself and to others with precision so you can get predictable results. Do you think that would be useful? I think it would be. So go ahead and pick up a copy of that book if you want. Again, The Transformative Power of Suggestion. It's available on Amazon and Kindle and on paperback. So thanks so much for listening, and hopefully you'll hear me on the next episode.